It's time for Art World 101.
Hi, and welcome to Art World 101, where we investigate all the different aspects of making art, selling art, and exhibiting art. Today's main question is, what is a curator? Now, many of you have probably gone into a museum or a gallery, but you probably have not wondered who decided to put all of this stuff in here. And that precisely is the job of a curator. A curator is somebody who works at a museum or gallery, and it is their job to build art collections, to research information about the art and artists that they're showing. They're also writing about the artworks that they're putting in the show, and they're also deciding where the artwork is going to be placed and in what order on the walls or in the museum or gallery. So the curator has to not only have a lot of knowledge about art and art history and the artists, but they have to do even more research to make the best decisions about where they're going to put the art and which art to put in an exhibit. So there's a lot of stuff that they have to think about before they make those decisions. How do they do it? What sort of aspects about an artwork or an artist should they focus on? They have many different options. Some of the options that they might decide is, well, maybe they can put the artwork in chronological order. Chronology means that if you make an arrangement based on the time or the date that it was made, so you would put it in the order of which the art was made. That's one way you could position the artwork. Another decision is, well, maybe you make a show only based on an art movement or style. An art movement is basically a style of art that was used by a group of artists during a certain period of time. So let's think of some art movements in art history. One art movement that you could do a show about is all about Impressionism. Or maybe you can do a show about Cubism. Or maybe you can do an art show about Abstract Expressionist movement. It's all up to the curator. Another thing that they can think about when they're deciding which artworks to show in an exhibit, they might think about the theme or a theme that's in some artworks. And a theme simply means it's the underlying sort of message or mood or big idea that the artwork is trying to communicate. So let's put our curator hats on and let's try to see if we can think like curators. Are you ready? All right, I think we're ready. Now it's time to take the Art Curator quiz. Let's see if we can test your art curation knowledge. Okay, here's our first selection of artworks. Okay, these are all three by the artist named Georgia O'Keeffe. But our art curator challenge is that we need to exhibit these artworks by chronological order. Remember, chronology means we're trying to put it in the order of the date that it was made. Okay, so right now let's think about this. The way that they are arranged right now, are they in chronological order? No, you're right. They are not in chronological order. The order that it's in from a painting from 1931 back to 1919 to that last painting that was made in 1950 is not in the order of which Georgia O'Keeffe painted these. Let's try to put them in the correct order, okay? Think of how you as a curator would put these in a new arrangement in chronological order. How would you change them? I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. Think you got it? You're right. The chronological order that it should have gone in is the first painting, the red flower painting, should be arranged first because she painted it in 1919. Then the next painting would be the cow skull that she painted in 1931. And then right after that one should come her In the Patio painting that she painted in 1950. Great job. Okay, our next art curator challenge. Here we have 3 artworks, and we are trying to select the artworks that go by the art movement called pop art. Now remember, pop art was that art movement where artists in about the 1960s were making artworks about things in popular culture. So things like everyday objects that you could buy at the store, or things that people during that time really loved. So here we have 3 artworks. Let's think about which ones are part of the pop art movement. Okay, do you think that there's one that doesn't belong in the pop art movement? Which one would that be? I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. You're right! This Mark Rothko painting is not a pop art artwork. It is an abstract expressionist artwork. We can tell it is not a pop art artwork because it is completely abstract. It doesn't look like anything. Whereas the Andy Warhol and the Roy Lichtenstein, those artworks look like certain things that were in popular culture. The Andy Warhol is of a soup can that was an everyday object that was very popular. You could buy it at a store. And the Roy Lichtenstein is a painting of part of a comic book that was really popular during that time as well. So great job. Let's get that Mark Rothko out of there. The next challenge is, as art curators, they think a lot about theme. Now remember, a theme means that it's the underlining sort of message or big idea or mood of an artwork. So our theme for our exhibit is going to be sadness. Now we're going to concentrate on 3 artworks by the very famous painter Pablo Picasso. And if we were putting together a show based on sadness in Pablo Picasso's artwork, let's try to see if we can pick out the best artworks that represent sadness in Picasso's work. I'll give you a chance to think about which artworks you would choose to be in our theme of sadness. You think you got it? You're right. These 2, the old guitarist from 1905 and Picasso's Weeping Woman from 1937 are the best choices to represent sadness in Picasso's artwork. The old guitarist, he painted when he was very sad after his friend had died. We can tell it's very sad because it's completely made of blue colors. The facial expression of the guitarist is looking down and very sad. And also, the Weeping Woman painting that Picasso painted obviously shows sadness because the woman, even though it's obscured by it being very cubist, we can tell that she is crying because of the title called Weeping Woman. And if we look, we can see her handkerchief that she's holding up and we see tears. So Picasso actually painted that of his girlfriend at the time, who he made cry and made very upset because he was being mean to her. So this is another representation of sadness. But this middle one, Harlequin, is very abstract. A harlequin was kind of like a clown. We kind of see a little smiley face in it. It doesn't necessarily show sadness. And Picasso didn't really paint it at a point when he himself was feeling sad, so we probably would not include that in our theme of sadness. I'm so proud of you guys for making these great decisions. Before we go, I want to ask you, now that you know what an art curator is, if you yourself were an art curator, what type of art exhibition would you put together? How would you categorize it? Would you do it by theme? Would you do it by art movement or maybe in chronological order? It's completely up to you. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about what a curator is. And I hope that you have fun trying to think of your own art exhibit. All right, bye.